Welcome everyone to the latest edition of Talk Wrestling here on NoDQ.com and all of its little affiliates around the internet. This is Jeff Meacham back with you again. Before I get into today's questions and reviews, I have a couple of points to make, as always. First off, my whole year-end awards picks and my subsequent criticism. I'm sorry that you guys didn't appreciate my picks. I'm sorry that you think I'm a WWE Mark or whatever. But it's true. I am a WWE Mark. I'm a wrestling Mark, period, to be honest with you. And the fact that you guys jump on my case for it is ridiculous, but, you know. I picked Randy Orton as Superstar of the Year because he won how many world titles this year? You guys, Jericho was better. You know, Jericho's in the lead right now. As of this taping, Jericho's in the lead of the Superstar of the Year poll by 41 votes. And I respect that. Jericho has been a dominant tag team champion this year and all that. And Jericho says he's the best at what he does. But you know what? Here's the thing. I judge Superstar of the Year by, you know, how many butts you put in the seats, how many world titles you've won this year, you know, how long you've been world champion this year, period. Jericho has not been world champion this year, to my knowledge. I could be wrong, but Jericho has not been world champion to this year, WWE champion to this point. Okay? He had his chance at Survivor Series and he lost. Undertaker retained the title. Superstar of the Year should be a guy like a Randy Orton, like the third place guy, CM Punk. AJ Styles is up there. You know, even Jeff Hardy was world champion twice this year. Not for very long, but he was world champion. I understand John Cena's being last because, you know, everybody hates John Cena, and I kind of have to agree with that. But, you know, the whole point of, you know, me being WWE Mark, where are my TNA picks, I don't watch a whole lot of TNA. To be perfectly honest with you guys, I don't watch a whole lot of WWE either anymore. I'm just trying to keep up with everything so I have a basic knowledge of what's going on so I can keep you guys entertained. So I apologize if my picks suck and you think my picks suck, but that's why you watch the show, to get my information, to get my opinion on things. If you don't like my opinion, nobody's forcing you to watch the show. Now that I've had my little rant, ECW may be changing. That's the latest news out of WWE. That's the big story. To be honest, I think that they should go a step further. Not only change ECW to the developmental brand and rename it, brand name here, take it off TV. Sci-Fi's not happy with the ratings results anyway. Get rid of it. Put the superstars that you're developing in the ECW brand, whatever it's going to be called, on one of the other two shows, and let these guys get the well, you know, I was talking about this with Aaron, but now that I talk to you guys and think about it, they're getting their shot to be on television and getting their names out there and getting their look out there to the people by being on that third brand, whatever it's going to be called, ECW or whatever. And I see that for what it's worth. So let me take back what I said. Keep it on TV. If Sci-Fi's not happy, they can find somewhere else to put it. I don't know where they're going to put it, but they got to find somewhere to put it. Excuse me for the sniffle. I'm still fighting the cold as always here on the show. But do something different. You know, ECW is not ECW anymore. I've been saying that for months and months. Change the name, change the storylines, change the developmental look of it, and just go forward with it. I agree with it. If they're going to change it wholeheartedly, I agree. Go for it. Anyway, on to your questions. Alright, this one is from Ryan. Just wanted to get your thoughts on a post I saw on NoDQ.com. After the Hogan to TNA announcement, the Honky Tonk Man came out with some conspiracy theory in which Hogan going to TNA is all part of some master plan for Vince McMahon to destroy his competition from the inside. Do you give this any real credibility? Does Honky Tonk Man have some kind of grudge against the WWE, or is he just gone crazy? Well, I don't give the theory credibility by any means. By any means. Does Honky Tonk Man have some kind of grudge? If you were not an inductee of the Hall of Fame yet, and you had to induct Coco Beware, wouldn't you be upset? I would be upset. Has he just gone crazy? Honky Tonk Man's always been a little out there. If you read some of his posts on honkytonkman.com and, you know, all the stuff that he's posted, all his, you know, commentaries and whatnot, he's a little loopy. So he's probably gone a little, you know, got his skull cracked a couple times. Probably got a few screws loose. Okay, but I think he's just trying to get attention. I think that's all it is, really. He just wants people to pay. He wants people to pay attention to him. So he's throwing shit out there just to make people go, "Hey, wait a minute, Honky Tonk Man makes sense." It doesn't make any sense. Why would Hulk, try to destroy something that, so many people believe in? Honestly, I idolize Hulk and whatever, but I just don't see it as being credible. I really don't. I'm sorry. All right, this is from The Rob. Kofi Kingston had an exciting U.S. title reign, but I noticed it was marred by one flaw. Nearly every one of his title defenses was a clusterfuck, i.e. triple threat, fatal four-way, or six-pack challenge, and so on. His only one-on-one defense that went to a full conclusion that I can remember saw him lose the belt to The Miz. What the heck was up with that? Did they think Kofi couldn't carry good one-on-one matches, so he had to always pick up the scraps? Did they think this was the best way to showcase the champ? In my opinion, surviving one of these makes you a good champ, but when you have to do it all the time, it degrades the concept and makes the champ look weaker because he didn't have to do all the work to get the win. What do you think? Well, I have made it very clear on XMV and on Ringside Insanity and on this show, I'm not a fan of the triple threats and the four-ways and the six-packs and all that stuff. I'm a fan of one-on-one and tag team matches. That's what I like. To have the title defended in these ways was very simply done because of this. They needed to get guys that are in that mid-card area, like a Miz, like a Jack Swagger, like, all those guys that were in those six-pack challenges, fatal four-ways, and triple threat matches with Kofi on TV and get them airtime. And the only way they could do that, besides doing, continual one-on-one matches every single week with Kofi over and over, was to throw them all in one match together, build the story up with all those guys, and then throw them in the match together. That's exactly what they did, and that was the reason they did it. Do I agree with it? No. I think if you want to build a story with the U.S. title, or the Intercontinental title at that, you build it around two guys fighting for the belt, the champion and the challenger. You've got, right now, the story with both those titles is against each other. Miz is trying to outdo Morrison. Morrison's trying to, finally get that win over Miz as U.S. champion and Intercontinental champion. But there's no real story with either title anymore. You had Dolph Ziggler challenge you for the Intercontinental title for a while, but from what I've understand, he's kind of dropped off the radar. They kind of dropped his push. Jack Swagger's going for the U.S. title. They kind of dropped his push. So if they're going to have him fight, it goes back to the whole, go back and the brand extension, have one champion. They're never going to do that. So, do I agree with what they did? No. Do I think Kofi was a strong champion? Yes. This is from Serotonin. No, not the stable. Now, as well as CM Punk works as a heel at the moment, do you not think that as a possible face, he could be amazing? If you think about it, he could be a super face, considering he is straight edge and a great role model to all the kids WWE is currently trying to attract to the product. In my opinion, he could be a modern-day Hulk Hogan in that sense, as Hogan had the training, prayers, and vitamins. All he has to do is come up with a catchphrase akin to that Hogan had. Have Vince push him to the moon like Hogan and Cena, and there you have it. He has the ring skills, mic ability, and he can go one better than Hogan, as he's legit, where Hogan just juiced up till 1991. Wow. And lastly, what a better way to counter TNA with Hogan trying to make them to the next level. So what are your thoughts on Punk as a superface straight-edge role model? They had Punk as straight edge since he's been there, and nobody got they didn't get the response they wanted from the fans out of him. He was ECW champion as a babyface. He was World Heavyweight champion as a babyface, briefly, and that was it. And then just keep it off. When they turned him heel and put him up against Jeff, that's when he took off. So no, I don't think he'll work as a super face monster heel. Super face straight edge role model. I think he works out great just the way he is. Much as I dislike Punk, and I've told y'all why, I like what I'm seeing out of him right now, and I like what I see him do as a heel. He's great. Bringing in the whole thing with Festus, turning him into somebody else was brilliant. To get rid of that Festus gimmick, I applaud that by WWE. That was brilliant writing and brilliant thinking on the part of their part to put him with Punk. That was just, oh, that was so good. I like Punk the way he is. Don't change him. Nope. All right, this one comes from Mike Moore. Who is your favorite hardcore champion? Mine was Crash Holly. Also, why did WWE ever decide to retire the belt back in 2002? Well, let me answer your second question first. The reason they retired the championship back in 2002 was because they were trying to consolidate the amount of championships they had on the Raw show. When the brand extension started, SmackDown got the Undisputed Champion, which was on both shows, and the U.S. Championship didn't come till a year later. So basically, you had SmackDown had, this many championships, and Raw had this many championships. So they got rid of the European, the hardcore, and then eventually the Intercontinental went away too, because they had a world champion on each show, tag team champions on each show, and then a secondary, the women's, a roster exclusive cruiserweight or women's on each show. Eventually they brought the U.S. the Intercontinental titles back and to put on the separate shows. Now they're on the opposite shows, obviously. Anyway, so that's why they got rid of it, because they wanted to get rid of the amount of belts they had on each show. My favorite hardcore champion would probably have to be Crash Holly as well. He was the guy that started it all with the 24/7 rule. He's a guy that, yes, it was storyline invented, but Crash was the one in storyline that did invent the 24/7 rule. So you got to go with Crash Holly as your favorite hardcore champion. He defended it every single place you could think of, in a fun zone, in a hotel room, in the backstage area, getting a massage. He went all over the world and defended that title. Every single place you could think of. The Hardcore Battle Royal, he was the champion going into that. And, really he was the champion going out of it if you really think about it, because there was no decisive pinfall there, was there, at WrestleMania 2000. Crash Holly's my favorite. Alright, today's book review. By the way, I've kind of decided to give up on the whole VRQ thing for a while because I'm not getting good ones. If you guys want to send in a good VRQ that's actually a legitimate question and I can hear you and see you properly, by all means send them in. Aaron and I will take a look at them, see if they're worth putting on the air, and if they are, we'll put them up. But for now, book review is what we're going with. Book review today comes from a buddy, Blue Rain, who's been a long-time follower of the show, and he says he wants to review It's Good to Be the King, Sometimes, by Jerry the King Lawler. If you're a fan of Jerry Lawler, this is a good book, because he gives a lot of good stories, talks a lot about the inner workings of professional wrestling and his life and prior to wrestling, and meeting Jimmy Hart and getting Jimmy Hart in the business. Of course, the story with Andy Kaufman, and it's cool. I like it, but I felt that he really didn't go enough into the behind the scenes stuff. I think he was very detailed, Jerry was, but I don't know why. I still don't know why. I haven't read this in a long time, but for some reason I feel that there was just something lacking with his books. So if you're a fan of the King, read it for yourself and give me your opinion. If you're not a fan of the King, I don't recommend it, because if you're into Jerry just for the puppies and all the comments he makes on Raw, if you're a fan of the current Jerry Lawler, don't read this book, because it's not the same guy writing the book. This is from my buddy Aaron Austin, who I recently saw this last weekend at an LBWA event, and thanks for the memories. It was fun to be a part of that this last weekend. Aaron Austin says, if you had the opportunity to have a conversation with the godfather of wrestling himself, Vince McMahon, you could ask him 3 questions you've been just dying to ask him. What would they be and why? I had a chance to talk to Vince briefly when I went to his Hall of Fame, Walk of Fame induction in Hollywood, but I didn't really get a chance to talk to him. I just kind of shook his hand and said, congratulations, blah, 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 kiss his ass. If I had a chance to sit him right here, and talk to him, probably be more in a hotel room, wouldn't be, in this, little crap setting I have set up here. I love my mom's decorations, though. These are nice back here. I love my mom's setup back here. But I wouldn't interview Vince on my front lawn. I'd probably interview Vince in a conference room or something. I would ask him seriously, what was up with Bastion Booger? And why was he repackaged as Friar Ferguson? And why was he brought back for the anniversary of Raw? That's what I would ask Vince. Seriously. Because I've seen many things in my 19 years, yes, 19 years of watching professional wrestling, including Mae Young giving birth to a hand, and Triple H raping a corpse. But nothing was as gross as Bastion Booger. So that's what I would ask Vince McMahon. Why? This is from Augustine Roldan, I guess. Do you think that TNA would benefit if they had a minor league system like what WWE has with Florida Championship Wrestling in terms of building up homegrown talent, or do you think that TNA getting people from the independents and putting them on national TV is their best route for putting out fresh new talent? I brought this up earlier, and I hope this gets edited properly. Here. Putting guys on TV right away is the way to go. I applaud them for this. I think it's the right decision for them to do this. You know, they're capitalizing on those guys' indie following, wherever they may be. Nigel, of course, in Ring of Honor. AJ in Ring of Honor. Daniels and Joe in Ring of Honor. Why these guys come from Ring of Honor? I'm putting them out there for the national scene to see and go, hey, I've never seen that guy on Ring of Honor, because Ring of Honor has a TV show now. They have their own deal. So, for them to be jumped into TNA and to have them be nationally exposed is the right way to go. They don't need a farm league. They're seeing these guys enough in the indie circuit to know they're good. They don't need to have a WWE system like they have in Florida, where they're going to keep them in Florida and bury them for 2 years and just not use them at all. And then, I don't need this guy anymore, let him go. No. Let him sink or swim. Let him go out there on national television and do his thing, or let him go. This is from Kevin S. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the push Kofi Kingston is getting on Raw. I talked about Kofi's U.S. title reign earlier on Raw, but I will talk about now his push overall, I guess. I like it. I've liked Kofi from the beginning. I like the fact that they're getting rid of they got rid of his Jamaican accent and are pushing him as him. They're not having this whole, I am Jamaican, I'm faking the accent, man, that type of thing. That was stupid. I like it. He's getting over on Randy Orton consistently and repeatedly. I like the fact that he's getting a spot. He deserves it. I like Kofi Kingston. He was a good Intercontinental Champion. He was a good U.S. Champion, despite what I talked about earlier on the show about the whole lack of credibility with title defenses. I don't think they were lack of credibility. I just think they had to do something with all those other mid-card guys. Kofi's good, and he should be a mid-card champion again. I don't know if he's the guy to be world champion or WWE champion, though. I don't see him at that level yet. Beating Randy Orton is definitely a step in the right direction, though. This is from a very outspoken gentleman on Facebook by the name of Mark Dre. He went on the Facebook and just ranted on me about not responding to Facebook comments when I already had this queued up a week before he said this. So I told him I wasn't going to read his comment because he did not say anything anymore, but I am going to read his comment, and I'll answer it truthfully. Hey Jeff, please read out this question on your next show. Do you think the WWE should have taken Jim Cornette back to WWE to be the SmackDown commentator with Todd Grisham while JR is ill? After all, he was in WWE before and commentated on Raw. No. I don't think the WWE in their right mind would take Jim Cornette back. Jim Cornette's been very outspoken against the WWE product. And for Vince to even think of bringing Jim Cornette back would be suicide for their product, because Jim Cornette would do nothing but hinder it. Jim Cornette has been nothing but a freaking figurehead the last few years in TNA. He's actually doing something in Ring of Honor now, which I applaud, because he's actually doing something decent. So, but to have him in WWE would have been a backstep for him, because he doesn't like WWE. He doesn't want to be a part of Vince McMahon's product, and I don't blame him. So, no. They should not have brought Jim Cornette back to be a commentator or anything. The announce team they have in place sucks, don't get me wrong, on SmackDown, but JR will be back before too long, and things will be better. So it's okay. Alright, it is time for this week's DVD review. It comes from Jesse Andrew, It is one of my rare pay-per-view DVD reviews. But I saw this as a request, and I figured, you know what, it was a good pay-per-view. I'm going to go ahead and go for it. The 2001 Survivor Series, featuring the winner-take-all match between the WWF team, dun dun dun, I said the F word, and the Alliance team, comprised of, quote, WCW and ECW people, although the team was Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Shane McMahon were on the team, and then the two actual Alliance people were Rob Van Dam and Booker T. This was a great pay-per-view to end the story, considering the whole story was a flop, if you will. But I thought it was very well presented, very well laid out. The DVD menu is really cool. They've got the layout of like different menu choices. It's all blue. It's very blue. I like blue. That was kind of gay. I know. I'm sorry. They have 5 different extras on here. Life on the Edge, which is basically a look behind the scenes of Edge's, a day in the life of Edge, pretty much as a superstar. And then 4 segments from Raw, where Vince fired Paul Heyman and brought back the book review today. I'll get to that in a little while. Bringing out Shane and Stephanie and firing them or getting rid of them. The infamous debut of the Kiss My Ass Club with William Regal and Vince's derriere, and the return of the man who would become Vince's 50-50 partner in the WWF, Ric Flair returns. But before that, you get the actual pay-per-view, which is a European Championship match between Christian and Al Snow, Tajiri versus William Regal, a unification match, U.S. title Edge versus Intercontinental title Test, the WWF and WCW tag team titles unified, Hardys versus Dudleys, an immunity battle royal featuring 22 superstars that would fight for a right to not get fired for a year, although that guy ended up getting fired later, didn't he, Test? 6-pack challenge for the vacant women's title, which of course was vacated by Chyna when she left, and the winner-take-all WWF Alliance elimination match, 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. Like I said, great pay-per-view. Again, I'm going to recommend it. I'm sorry, I know you guys don't like me when I recommend things, and I'm a WWF Mark. In a couple weeks, I have a TNA doubleheader that I have picked out for you guys. So there will be TNA picks on the show. But as far as this goes, if you're a fan of the Invasion storyline, pick up Invasion first. Actually, I'll go you one further. Pick up King of the Ring first, because that's when Booker T debuts as WCW champion and assaults WWF champion Steve Austin. Go back and watch that, and watch Raws and stuff all the way through. But definitely watch, Invasion and the pay-per-views after that. But definitely watch this at the end. A great capper to the Alliance story arc. There you go. This is from Brian Nelson. I have a question for you, Jeff. Who's your favorite WWE Diva of all time and favorite TNA knockout of all time? Well, I'll answer the TNA one first because that's easy. Velvet Sky. She's just pretty. I like Velvet. I've always liked Talia Madison. Velvet Sky, from the Indies all the way to now. She's just gorgeous. And very jealous of Hurricane Helms. Very jealous of Hurricane Helms. WWE Diva of all time. For the longest time, my answer to that was Sunny. Even more so because I had met her at XPW about 6 years ago. But then I started watching somebody else and got to like her, watching her on TV and watching her at live events. And then I met her through Rob Van Dam's store, and I got to know her, and I've talked to her since online many times. She's a sweet person. So my favorite all-time WWE Diva would have to be Trish Stratus. This is from Austin, either Chafin or Chaffin, or I don't know how you say it, Chafin. Sorry, Austin. Just wanted to know what you think about TNA signing new talent and immediately putting them on TV. The most recent example is when WWE backed it of signing Nigel McGuinness, and then TNA immediately signed him and made him Desmond Wolfe and put him with Kurt Angle. Personally, I think TNA should have tested him first before putting him in a program with Kurt. What do you think? Yeah. Well, the reason they signed these guys off the indie circuit, like a Nigel and maybe even a Bryan Danielson if they did sign him, or, guys like Christopher Daniels when they signed him, AJ Styles back in the day, is because these guys are proven superstars. They are proven indie gods, you know, AJ, Joe, Daniels, Nigel, Brian, all these guys that are getting signed are proven talents, and they can get it done in the ring, they can get it done on the mic, and they can get it done in general. And TNA wants to get their names out there and get them on TV and get them in programs. That way they can see exactly what they're going to do with them. I applaud TNA for doing that, signing guys and giving the opportunity right away instead of stick them in Florida for a year, 2 years, whatever it takes to, you know, and just buries them. It's kind of sad that they do that. So I applaud TNA and Dixie Carter and Vince Russo for doing stuff like that. You know, it's commendable of them to give guys a chance like that. That's going to do it for this episode of Talk Wrestling. Again, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Even though we have 10,000 people, we want 10,000 more. We want everybody in the freaking world watching this show at some point or another. So tell your friends to subscribe. Tell your family to subscribe. Tell your mom to subscribe. We want to see moms watching this show. I know there's some moms out there that watch this show. So, moms, good job. Next week, more questions, more DVDs, more books, and... that's it. We'll see you next time.